For me, fishing still, as great as the forward-facing sonar is, I still use my side imaging and my traditional down imaging a lot. I have my Ghost trolling motor has the 3-in-1 transducer, so I have side, down, and 2D all on that transducer, and I use that a lot. I have all three operating at the same time. So I run side imaging, traditional sonar, down imaging. So I'm watching what's going on, and sometimes I'll split and I'll run the transducer off the front and the transducer off the back, just so I can see a little bit of everything that's going on. So there is a nice capability of having that network integration, and all the companies are all doing it. They all have the same integration.
Joe,
Yeah?
sorry to interrupt. There was a gentleman in our store asking about that, and I don't know if he's here, but you can actually split a screen and run your back transducer
Yep.
and your front transducer off the pound mount
Yep.
on one screen, and it'll show
And see the two different.
Is that guy here tonight? I don't think he is too bad, because he had that question the other day.
Yeah.
I said to Joe,
Garmin is going to be releasing some new software stuff for 2024. Depends on your unit. I'm hearing they're already at 6. I think this year they might get up to 8. 8 different screens you could share separately to split. So you could have live scope forward, live scope down. You could have side imaging. You could have 2D. You could have your charts.
It's just
you could
data.
have your camera.
Yeah.
You could have all those spread across one screen.
So
it's-
this is what I'm saying. So all that data, right? So then with that though, here comes the thing. You have to have the proper networking cables. You have to build the proper Ethernet system, the proper NEMA network system. So there's systems that all have to work within that boat.
On that point, I'll even throw another little jab. There's some new software Garmin's coming out with for 2024 as well too. I don't know if you heard about it. It's going to be full Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
So no
Bluetooth.
more Bluetooth. So not even an Ethernet integration. Just solely Bluetooth. Once they know, they pair automatically. No connection, no wiring. And one more on top of that, they're now selling a speaker attachment that you could put off the back of your unit, through your I think it's through your audio port, and it will literally act the same way your Alexa. So you can now say, Graph, turn on live scope. Graph, go to chart plotter, and it will automatically put you on that screen.
So you can all guarantee that in 5 years, all of them will all have somewhat of the same, so this is what I mean, this one-upping that always is happening. This is where the software and the technology is getting so different, right? So that 2D and that side imaging is huge on your boat. And to the point where you guys were talking before about trolling and watching fish move and how fast, I can't tell you how many times I've fished. Any guys fish Bay of Quinte, at all? Okay. Yeah, so I fish Bay of Quinte a lot with my tournament partner, Tom Choppin from Freedom, and we noticed a lot of activity, the way the fish behave there because of the watercolor. It's different than the way you would fish Lake Erie or a Clearwater lake. Because the water's dirty, those fish actually swim faster and are more active because they can't see things far away. Sometimes they only get, 6 to 10 inches of visibility. And I'll put my camera down and I'll look and I'll be like, man, you can only see maybe less than a foot. And then I'll start trying to fish a bunch of fish and I'll see them on my forward-facing sonar. And I'm like, okay, and I start to make a cast. And the next thing you know, they're underneath the boat and they're gone out the back. That gives you an idea of the reaction or the way the fish are behaving and how fast they are. And I've seen it with the walleye and the smallmouth bass there. Largemouth, a little bit different. Offshore largemouth, I've seen them swim that fast, but mostly the walleye and the smallmouth on the Bay of Quinte react that way. And it's just something that gives you a different way to change a presentation or realize, okay, I got to do this, or you know what I mean? It's information. He talks about it a lot. It's information.
It's a tool.
It's a
That's
tool.
the key.
It's just a tool. Do I think that guys win tournaments because they only have forward-facing sonar? 100%. But they have to know how to use it, and they have to have it installed properly on their boat in order for it to actually work.
And process that information, right?
And then process it and make changes. Because I've seen a ton of guys that don't know how to use forward-facing sonar on their boat, and they'll sit there all day and they'll fish, and they won't catch a fish because they don't know how to change the information that they're processing. They're like, well, I can see them. They're not eating. Why aren't they eating? I don't understand. Like, I should be able to just keep throwing at them. They're going to eat. Well, no. You got to change. Maybe they're want to see something coming up from the bottom, or maybe they want it hovered up 4 feet, or you know what I mean? Anything changes. All those old processes that you guys used to use, they still matter. It's just that you're now actually physically watching a fish react in order to do it.
And from a trolling standpoint, from a salmon standpoint, we all know salmon are pelagic. Like I said, from a bass angle or a nearshore guy, you know, not that I'm a bass guy and I could speak on it, but typically they're a little more, you know, structure oriented or not moving as much as a salmon, right? A salmon could literally buzz through your cone on your traditional, and you won't even see that fish. And that could happen multiple times in a day. And you may be fishing an area where you don't even think there's fish.
Yeah.
Where on live scope, even if you're not catching them, you know you're in the right area. You got to make those adjustments and those changes. So there's been many of times where we've, you know, come through an area, and like I said, you'll see it on the live scope. You'll see those fish buzzing through and coming your bait and buzzing out, and literally do this and spin around, look at the front screen, and my 2D has not a fish on it. Zero. Because those fish have come through so fast and through that cone that's much narrower, and you know what I mean? You're still seeing those fish that you're seeing super tight, but everything else around it, and predominantly on Lake Ontario and a lot of the Great Lakes, as they get clearer, those fish are acting different, and they're not in those traditional spots, right? So they're much more boat shy now, and they're not being caught in traditional methods like we once used to, maybe a little higher or stuff. So now you have to go deeper, and you're seeing those fish. I see fish off to the side. We'll play around with the live scope, and you'll see a salmon that's literally out here, and you'll see the boat, and you'll see it just do this, like a rocket ship, gone. From 30 feet down to 200, I'll see that fish gone in seconds. And that's solely, you know, because the boat was there, that's it. And that lake's much clearer. So all these things are changing, right? So you have to take that information in and adapt it to the style you fish, or the way you fish, or how you're doing certain things, right? And without that technology, you would never know that. Doesn't mean you still can't catch fish. It's just giving you that much more broad array of information to, you know, to put into your bag of tricks, let's just say, right? So
the one thing I did want to kind of ask guys, because I had it the last seminar I did a couple weeks ago, Stelco guys, how many guys have lithium batteries in their boat or run a lithium? Probably only the one guy that I put one in. There's a lot of misconceptions, or I don't want to say bad information out there about lithium batteries, but I will say this: I do believe that quite shortly lithium batteries were probably going to be the mainstay battery in boats, just because of what we're talking about right now and the battery capacities that we're talking about that you need to have in order to operate this stuff. The trolling guys, it's a little bit different because you guys are going to have a kicker motor on that has an alternator that can kind of charge the system. But at the same time, if you guys start running multiple units, multiple boxes, multiple stuff, you still need some bigger, higher battery power, probably going from 24 series batteries to 31s, from lead to maybe AGM, stronger, well-built AGM batteries are probably where you guys are going to need to go. And then the guys that just fish from the front of the boat or something, you're going to eventually have to go to a lithium battery. That's just the way of the future. Like, to give you an idea, a typical setup on a fishing boat with like 3 12s in forward facing, or 3 units in forward facing sonar, let's say, you're going to operate, you know, over 100 amp hours a day, right? And most of your guys, group 27s or even group 31s, are only 100 amp hours. So you're really relying on that alternator to run to charge that battery to bring it back up, right? Where you can buy a lithium battery. The one in my boat's 280 amp hours. Mr. Marr, I think yours is 175, 170. So he's got 170 amp hours. Like, he's never going to run out of battery power.
I got a question for you. How about integration? So like, say if you're like on a larger boat like mine, where I have 5 batteries.
So this is the thing.
Can you integrate lithium with AGM, and how does that work from a charging standpoint? And do you have to have all lithium, or can you have both, or how does that work?
You can do it. You can do it if you do it in systems. So trolling motor batteries. For years, I ran just lithium trolling motor batteries, and I had AGM house batteries, cranking batteries, right? And it's just my charger is different. So two separate systems. So my charger at the time I had a lithium charger and I had an AGM charger. Well, there's technology out there now. There's chargers that can do lead, lithium, and AGM. So now I only have one charger on my boat. It's just programmed to do lithium. Does everybody understand the difference between lead or AGM batteries and lithium batteries, like how they operate, and like why the lithium kind of the technology is better in a sense? All right, because the main.
So one of the only concerns is that lithium is well known to draw or die out on colder weather, right?
Yeah, so that's.
And we are in a cold environment.
Yeah, that's gone.
We musky fish, so
yeah.
we really like cold environments.
Yeah, so that's gone by the wayside now. The technology that you have, I will say this, in any battery, whether it's lead, AGM, or lithium, you get what you pay for, right? So the quality of the battery is the best. The thing with lithiums is, lithium batteries vary from, do they have a battery management system, like a protection system? What's their cold weather rating? Are they heated, not heated? So, and that's where the prices fluctuate so much in a lithium battery. Lithium batteries, though, the benefit to them is the fact that charge, that voltage, 13.1 we'll call it, stays consistent throughout the cycle of the battery. So it doesn't matter how much you pull out of it, like discharge it, amp hours, it'll stay at a consistent 13 volts until it dies. So LEDs or AGMs, as your amp hours come out of the battery, the voltage drops. So to give you guys an idea, how many of you guys see like 11.7 or 11.8 on your graph for voltage, right? That's usually that your battery's at about 50% capacity now. So you've taken 50% of the voltage out of that battery, to give you an idea. So what happens, do you think, when your voltage drops? What goes wrong with your units themselves, your electronics?
They don't like it.
They don't like it, right? Because we've talked about 4K TVs and all this technology, they start to go dim and things start to not work properly, and you're like, this thing's garbage, it doesn't work, blah, 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 I can't see this. Is it the unit, or is it the fact that you don't have the proper battery in your boat or the proper wiring in your boat, right? So I think that's a huge thing that guys have to understand, is the performance of your equipment is going to rely on the power that you have for that equipment, right? And the technology is there for you guys to have lead batteries and lithium batteries.
I still run AGMs. I don't have no lithiums on my boat, but then again, my boat is being plugged into shore power.
And he's idling, and he's idling, right? Yeah. So he's constantly keeping the voltage up, right? So you're okay with that, right?
And I have no issues. I have 3 12-inch screens and a 16-inch screen on my boat.
But he's
run them on AGM batteries with no issues. Now, granted, too, in your world of smaller boats, another thing we don't touch on with lithium is the weight, right?
Yeah, huge.
Especially now that you're running maybe 3 or 4 lithium batteries or 3 or 4 AGM batteries on a boat like mine. I just probably added near 300-400 pounds in batteries on the boat, right? So it's a huge difference when you get into factors of smaller boats and mile an hour and weight and all that kind of stuff. So lithium becomes a huge factor, a
weight factor, right? So the and the size too, right? A lot of you guys are starting to run out of places to put your batteries, right? So some guys like, I need an extra battery, but I literally don't have room for another battery. We go to lithium, smaller package, more compact, right? Lighter. So these are all the things. And I will say this though, to kind of give you guys a caution, because I know a couple of guys have asked me before, well, what if it's going to start fire? Is this going to happen? Like, yes, you have that issue with lithium, but honestly, if you buy a reputable brand battery, use the proper charger, you won't have an issue. Okay? I see way too many guys out there trying to buy Amazon lithium batteries for their boats. Like, if you're buying a lithium battery for $500, you're gonna burn your boat down. Okay? If the battery guy that sells you your lithium says, nope, you don't need a regular, you could just use your regular charger at home, don't worry about it. You don't need a proper lithium charger, you're gonna burn your boat down. Okay? Like, you gotta invest the money in this stuff in order for it to operate properly. That's why I start battery, charger, right? Like,
I got 2 batteries on mine. They're hooked up to the front motor and all that stuff. Where do you start? Does it make sense at some point to consider lithium, get rid of a battery?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you're running 2 batteries at this
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
right? So what size are they?
Group 31.
So you got 2 Group 31, so you're like 200 amp hours right now is what you're basically trying to run your boat off of. Yeah, like you could drop,
lithium could do it.
you could, one lithium would do that, and you would take 100 and some odd pounds out of the back of your boat, and that size of that battery would be the same size as 1 Group 31.
Or you just buy 2 and then you get double the.
Or, yeah, or right? So
Double the run time.
I'll give you an example. The battery that I run, 280 amp hours, it literally fits in a Group 31 tray. It's
Yeah.
just a little taller.
Okay.
And that's 280 amp hours, right? So,
Joe, have they determined whether outboards are okay with lithium?
yeah, yeah.
So they're confused?
So that was the next thing, yeah. So that's where I'm saying is the brand of battery matters. All motor manufacturers now have said like thumbs up to lithium, but they have to have a BMS system in it, which is called a battery management system. That's the protection system in the battery to protect it from voltage spikes back and forth. And basically it's like a little computer in there.
So name those battery companies.
Well, there's tons of them now. Right off the hop, I can tell you Dakota Lithium, Eternal Lithium, Battleborn, Norsk, yeah, Norsk.
What about Ionic?
Ionic. The only thing I don't like about Ionic is they're saying that that you got to be careful with the chargers because they say that you can use a traditional charger. I've had customers ask me that. I would say use an Ionic charger or a proper lithium charger. It can't be charged with a standard AGM lead charger. There's Powerhouse Lithium, Monster Marine Lithium. Like there's a million lithium battery manufacturers out there, but I would say the biggest thing that you got to look for is the battery management system, and then they have their safety ratings, CSA, or what's the one in the States? Sometimes they use NMEA, it's the National Marine Electronics Association, ULA or UL number. And they're IP67 rated, so they're water rated, like waterproof, okay? Those are the things. Any of those manufacturers, they're all good. All that information's usually on their website. And the other thing too with lithium, the benefit is some of these manufacturers are offering up to a 10-year warranty, and at the 6-year, 7-year mark, they prorate it. So if you think about an AGM battery you replace every 2 to 3 years because you cycle it so hard, a lithium's going to give you a 10-year life cycle and it'll pay for itself. So there is some pros and cons. I install both. I just see it's more of an application and kind of what the customer wants and what they're going to do with the boat, right? So you're going to put 1 graph or 2 graphs on your boat, your little 16-foot, aluminum Lund Deep V, and you're just going to fish with the 2 graphs. Yeah, Group 31 AGM, no problem. Like that's a great battery. If you want to spend some money and lighten that boat up and put a lithium in there and run it, yeah, put a you know what I mean? Like there's a time and a place for it.
It's a lot of good information. Yeah, we'll I think we'll open the floor. I think there's probably a lot of questions that have been brewing. So one at a time, we'll see what we can take care of. Yes.
I run 2 systems in mine. And when I turn off the Hummingbird and leave only the Garmin on, I see a lot more fish on it than when I have both on.
Yeah. So
That's because of power?
no.
Enough power?
Well, it depends on how you've wired your boat, one. So yeah, you could have a power issue, but also too, it could be that interference that I'm talking about too, right? So you could have,
Changing frequencies would help?
yeah. So I have seen that with Hummingbird. I did an install they were Helix 9s, and he had a Garmin Live Scope on the front of his boat with his Helix 9s and 360, and he was getting interference on them, and that was because of the frequencies. So sometimes you have to tune out one or the other, but again, I would look back at your system and make sure, one, do you have the proper gauge wire powering these systems?
I wire cars for a living, for car audio. So
Yeah.
Wiring is all above what it should be.
Yeah, so you got whatever, you go,
It's probably a frequency.
It's probably a frequency then.
And
It's just frequency.
Yeah, so you're running like, how big's your boat?
16 foot.
16 foot, so you got like 10 gauge to your units. Yeah, you got no issues. Wiring's not your issue, and it's run
For free at the shop, so I don't
and
run direct, and it's run direct to your battery with a switch,
battery.
to a switch, or run direct
So if you,
that you shut off and isolate when you're charging. Yeah, see? Okay, so that was the other thing. Guys don't realize, because of the technology in this stuff, it's all got Bluetooth and it all has parasitic draw. So if you don't isolate this stuff and shut it off when you're charging, you're actually discharging a battery and charging it, which is just destroying the life of it. So whether you use a circuit breaker or a BEP switch like a Blue Seas or whatever, Perco switches, whatever, to shut the boat off and isolate it, battery disconnect it. Yeah, that's a,
like I charge the battery at home, or when it's the motor that
no, when you're at home charging it. Yeah, with an onboard charger.
turn off my GPS.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is your interference intermittent or is it constant?
When I'm running both of them on, I can barely see fish on the front, because I'm fishing from the front.
Okay, and that's constant or that's in and out? Is that it's constant?
Do you have your trolling motor running off that battery too?
That's where I was going.
Okay. That was a
My
lot.
two GPSs run off the main battery, and my motors run off the trolling motor batteries.
Yeah, either that or you got a grounding issue somewhere on that boat.
Because what happens a lot of times people don't understand is if it's a frequency issue, 9 times out of 10 it will be intermittent. Because the only time you'll have that
Yeah.
issue is when the two signals cross. So that's what a lot of people have issues with on a lot of traditional boats. When
Rain.
chirp technology came out, everybody thought it was the greatest thing. But guys still wanted to run their traditional
Yep.
2D non-chirp, and then they bought a fancy chirp, and you have them both going. So that non-chirp may be pinging at a 50 kilohertz, and the other one pings through a multiple set of signals. So when those two signals hit, that's when you get your interference. So I had this personal issue when I went to Ray Marine for a short period of time. It was driving me crazy because they had this new high-tech, chirp technology, high frequency, right? And it was driving me crazy because it would mess my fish hawk, it would mess everything, because it would be good for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then as those frequencies would ping and cross, it would go wonky. And it was only when those frequencies were crossing, right? So it became an issue that sometimes you got to watch if you're running, two different frequencies, i.e. a non-chirp versus a chirp. Now with most of the live scopes, they're so outside the range that it doesn't, like for example, a PF30 runs on a 417 frequency.
Yeah.
There's no chirp, there's no 2D that even comes close to that frequency. So
Side
it's
imaging is what the closest is.
Is what the closest is, right?
It's with your side imaging you'll start to see it.